So now that we know about the microbiology and we've realised that bugs in our water are not fantastic and healthy things, let's talk about chemistry. One of the great differences between the microbiology and chemistry is that microbiology can make us sick very fast and affect large numbers of people. Chemistry of water can affect us too, but often it's over a much longer time period. The very first thing that we'll talk about is chlorine. Chlorine is added to water and it's quite often complained about by our customers, and so we'll talk through that first, even though it's not a natural thing that we find. Like, as far as what chlorine actually is, it's an oxidizing agent or a chemical which is added to water, particularly through our big town, municipal or city supplies, to disinfect the water from those bugs that we were talking about before. Sometimes it's used to oxidize undesirable contaminants, things like organic matter, iron, manganese, arsenic, things along those lines. It has a number of different forms. So common ones that you might be familiar with are sodium hypochlorite, that's your liquid chlorine, we quite often use that in swimming pools. Chlorine gas, which is a gas generator that's quite often used by the bigger supplies. And calcium hypochlorite. Calcium hypochlorite you might have seen in the swimming pool store as the granular chlorine. Like, as far as what chlorine does, right? So you will come across a lot of people who get upset about chlorine. And they don't enjoy the taste or smell, or they might have listened to some scary things on social media that may or may not be true. At low levels, chlorine poses no risk to health. In fact, it's probably saved more lives than any other chemical. However, nothing is without risk. So some people may have issues with taste, they might have issues with smell, and if they've got sensitive skin, things like psoriasis or eczema, the skin can dry out, it can be irritated. If you were to drink higher levels, so for example bleach is 4.5% chlorine, and you were to swallow that, you probably wouldn't be holding it down for very long. It would cause some burning down your throat, and you'd be pretty upset. But honestly, the chlorine itself is less dangerous than its byproducts. So when chlorine's in water, it reacts with organic matter. It can form these things that we call trihalomethanes, or THMs for short. The main dangers of chlorine are to the handlers of the concentrated chemical, not to the people who are drinking very, very tiny amounts of it. As I said, nothing is without risk. But we need to help people to understand the difference between low levels and high levels and how they affect us. The drinking water standards do have a bit of a say in that. They give us a maximum acceptable value of free chlorine as 5 milligrams per litre, but they have an additional note in there saying that they would prefer us to drink above that than to drink water without enough in it, because you don't want to compromise your disinfection. Remember, those bugs that the chlorine is killing can do a lot more damage to a lot more people a lot more quickly than drinking chlorine even above the safe levels can. However, it is really big business all around the world these days for taking chlorine out because people don't enjoy that taste and smell or want to improve their skin or hair. The main thing that takes chlorine out, and it has lots of different forms, is carbon filtration. And carbon does a fantastic job. We have huge big media filters that can take it out on a large scale. We've got little under bench just for drinking. There's filters specially for the shower if you do have irritated skin. There's quite a lot of different ways, and we'll get to a little bit more of that when you see the presentation on the fundamentals of filtration.